Hello and welcome to Homeschool Together. This week we were in jolly old England in the UK.
Yeah.
So we had a great time. We did a lot of fun things. We're going to talk about a lot of books. Should we get started with those books?
Yeah. Lots of fun books and some fun
I,
media.
I know it's been a few weeks, guys. We're busy, all right? Give us a break. So,
Somebody's going through his master's here. So
I'm doing well. How the Queen Found the Perfect Cup of Tea. This was a fun story. My youngest really liked this one, and my oldest because she's kind of getting into the tea culture.
she feels very grown up. She's 9, and so she feels like she can be with the ladies.
I'm almost double digits, Dad, like you. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, a few decades off. But this is a great little story. The drawings are really fun and playful about a queen going around the world to try to find the perfect cup of tea. And then at the very end, as she meets all these various people from all around the world, different cultures that also really embrace the tea culture, she found out the best way to have a cup of tea is with her friends and the friends that she met along the way. And it's very sweet and very funny.
Story.
Yeah, I know, and I love the drawing of the queen. She's like this big dress and
Like it's supposed to be like a queen,
almost Victoria type frame. Yeah,
big,
you can almost imagine. It was very sweet and very fun, and you can imagine having a little cup of tea while you're reading it. So we enjoyed it. It was fun. Next one is Follow Me Around the United Kingdom. Again, we love these books that
Right.
follow children around and do various things.
So, there's 2 of them. There's living in ... whatever country, and then there's the Follow Me Around. This is the slightly older version of the 2 types of books. And this one actually deals with a real child's life, whereas the living in is an illustrated and it's just a fictional child. But this is actually their life, their family, where they go to school, what they eat, what they play with, their hobbies. It's a great way to connect. So it's a great supplement. If your kids really love the Children Like Me books, this is like right up your alley. Grab these.
Really nice for a little bit of that elevated reader, especially if you're trying to bring someone along in this journey who might be a little bit older. Next one is the Usborne Flat Book. We have a lot of Usborne books, but we are not Usborne retailers. We are Usborne book consumers.
I bought this in Liverpool when I was there as a souvenir for the kids, or Manchester maybe. Anyways, we didn't read this book this week, but I wanted to because we just read it when we did Ancients. We started talking about it, but it's just such a great book that if you have the opportunity to get it, I know we're going to use it as we study throughout history, and all the Lift the Flaps are so fun. There's such good information in this book.
You would think that a Lift the Flap book would be a smaller read, but actually there's so much reading and so much to find here and so many flips per page. It would probably take you longer to read this than, say, the How the Queen Found the Perfect Cup of Tea.
Oh, much longer.
This would take you longer to do and may have a little bit more longevity through like a week-long study than just a simple chapter book. So definitely consider these. We have a bunch of these style of Lift the Flap Usborne books. I really like them.
And I think this will be great because it will last us through, the past Ancients, but, middle and early modern and modern. It goes all the way through. So I think good investment.
A Walk in London. This is a great book if you're trying to find out somewhere. We always try to recommend people to have a focus while you're doing a country. One of your focuses may be just the city of London because there's just so much there. This is a great book that takes you through the various, famous places in London. Story about a mom and a daughter going around just kind of touring the various areas. Really cool to see. You can find something that interests you and then key in on some other learning.
Add a video to it of the things that they see.
Absolutely, yeah. If you see something you like, you can do a little bit more of a deep dive. We really enjoyed this. I remember reading this the first time. This was really good.
It's a really good one.
Absolutely. Doing a little bit, we'll hold off on the obvious one here. This is a book I found at Goodwill. I think I got it from like a library.
It was a library book sale.
Yeah, book sale. Lancelot. So if you want to think about doing a little bit of a King Arthur, kind of a Robin Hood element, you can absolutely do that as well.
Or Robin Hood.
I
don't think there was ever a King Arthur and Robin Hood mashup because they were 2 different time periods. But that would have been cool. Why did nobody ever do a mashup?
It would be like kind of...
Anyway, I digress.
Mighty Python meets Men in Tights.
I don't know. Yeah. This is a bit of a longer book. So this would maybe be a couple of sittings for a younger child. It was really good. It handled the Lancelot-Guinevere thing very sensitively. It said that Lancelot was in love with Guinevere, and so he went away for a bit. And then he ended up finding himself and ended up falling in love with someone else and getting married. And it all ended really happy. There are mentions in here about the Holy Grail because that's, really intertwined with the Arthurian legends. So FYI, that's in here. Of course, our girls were like, yeah, like like the Last Crusade, like Indiana Jones. We're like, yes, of Indiana Jones fame, that's where it's from.
Or Monty Python thing.
So anyhow, but this was a good way to get in if you're looking for a King Arthur book. I'm sure there's tons of King Arthur books. This just happened to be the one that you found at the library sale, but it worked really well. So.
Our big study this week, our focus was Stonehenge.
Yeah, this is a really cool book.
We unfortunately, when we did the ancient civilizations and we did the prehistory, we didn't really get to the England area for the Stone Age stuff as much as we wanted.
We kind of touched on it a little
briefly.
bit.
So this was something I wanted to kind of like dive into, and we'll talk a little bit about the media and some of the art activities. But this was just a really cool book that kind of telling the learner and you as well how they built Stonehenge and how it evolved over time, because it wasn't just the thing that we know, but it was a larger complex, and that complex evolved over time and grew and became more and more important to the people of that area. So this is a really cool book. I learned a lot about it. It was a really nice touchstone point for that.
Yeah, 5,000 years ago.
So most important thing is, first of all, get a little bit of a grounding what you're doing. So you had some pictures here that we printed off, and this was important because Ariel took her new fangled 3D printer and went ahead and printed the various, some of them.
Not all of it's attached, but I 3D printed Stonehenge. So I found files on Maker World, and we're doing a whole series on the podcast on 3D printing. So stay tuned if you haven't listened to that yet. It was great. So we printed out all the pieces, and then we printed out the pictures, and then it was like a puzzle. And our girls had to figure out and glue all the pieces down.
Some of them were the little, they have terms for these, but the ones that go across the top and
Lintels?
whatnot. It's something like that.
Anyway, so it was a really fun exercise, especially for them to kind of, like, they had to use the pictures and look at each different piece of the puzzle. I'm like, well, where would this go? Oh no, I think it looks more like that one, sister. And so it took them a little while to reconstruct the whole thing.
And then they had to glue it down and paint the base. And this is just the Amazon box that we cut open. So
yeah, but it was a great art exercise. Printing these took me, I don't know, maybe an hour. I mean, they didn't take very long to print. And it was a really great use of our new 3D printer. And it was a fun art activity for the kids.
Follow along. We'll have that podcast coming out in a few weeks. But if you're starting to think about, well, how can I level up my, studies? Printing things like this, there's a whole subculture of homeschooling with 3D printers and using 3D printers. And so we're going to start talking a little bit more of that, because it's something that we're interested in, and it's a great way to kind of level up the experience for our learners, especially in something like this where you print pieces and they have to put the art project together. So
yeah, it was really great. So fun activity. And then kind of finishing up with some books, but we did some audiobooks.
We've got audiobooks this week.
We have a few Yodo cards that we've made. Our kids listen to Paddington, because Paddington's the main book that Build Your Library recommends. And Paddington's, it's wonderful. There's like 5 or 6 books, I think. We have several. I think our kids might have made it through the first 2 books on Yodo. Anyway, they listen to their Yodo cards all the time. So they listen to Paddington. They also listen to Matilda, and they listen to the BFG. So it was a really fun, different swaths of, British kids literature that they were able to listen to. And it helped take a little bit of the workload off of us, because we didn't have to read the chapter books.
And if you're planning appropriately, if you go right from Peru to the UK, you can just carry the Paddington theme all the way through, from darkest Peru.
Darkest Peru. But you do need to get some marmalade in your house if you're going to do Paddington. So that brings us to our movies. We obviously watched Paddington. I think kids might have gotten Paddington 2 in the car as well, but we watched Paddington 1.
Yep.
Paddington is wonderful. And maybe by the time you see this later this year, I think they're releasing like Paddington 3. So it could be a Paddington marathon. It's so delightful. Paddington is just such a wonderful...
Sweet movie.
Sweet movie. It's great for kindergartners. I think, highly recommend. The other movies that we watched The Kid Who Would Be King, which is about a modern day kid who gets basically called to be a modern day King Arthur and his knights, and they have to defend against these demons. There's a few darker scenes. Our kindergartner had no problem with it, but she's a little spooky girl, so she's a little okay with stuff like that.
She's alright with that stuff.
But there could be a few scenes in there when they're getting the bad guy is Morgana and she's under the earth and stuff. There could be a few disturbing scenes in that. So watch at your own risk. But we thought it was a really fun movie for kids, especially dovetailing with reading about Lancelot.
Well, we also did the Wallace and Gromit movie as well.
Oh, yes, we did Wallace and
The
Gromit.
Foul.
Revenge Most Foul.
Revenge
Because it
Most
just
Foul.
came out when we started doing this, and it's on Netflix. It is also delightful.
Yes.
So
As they all are, yeah.
if you have more sensitive kiddos or you're watching this with even younger kids, Paddington and Wallace and Gromit would be great. There's a couple other Wallace and Gromit movies and shows, so you can pick whichever one. Revenge Most Foul was super cute.
Well, and there's a gnome in there. Oh, we left it downstairs, but
Oh, yeah.
in our art window.
Happy, helpful gnome.
There's a gnome that's part of the
Norbot.
Norbot, yeah, and it's a gnome, and then gnomes are very popular in garden culture in the UK, and I got some gnomes from I think Walmart, and we painted some gnomes as well.
Oh, and I printed one.
And you
I
printed
3D
a couple.
printed a gnome, and you painted that one too. I forgot about that. Oh, sorry guys, we left it downstairs. Anyway, yes, Wallace and Gromit would be a great selection. If you're doing this anytime around Halloweenish time, they have Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which is super cute.
That's a good one.
Very cute. So yeah, any Wallace and Gromits are always very wholesome. You could also watch something like a Chicken Run. We just recently saw Chicken Run and Chicken Run 2, so we didn't watch those again. But the second Chicken Run's not that good. But the first one, I would say, definitely a great thing to watch.
And then you guys also watched Matilda as well.
Yes, we
The
watched...
new one with the dancing dancing kids.
We watched the Matilda, the musical version on Netflix, which, if you like a good musical, it's great. Really hard to understand some of the lyrics while they're singing. So, because it's really fast-tempoed music and things. So there was that. And also,
the girls are in choir right now together at their choir class, and they're singing the song from Matilda.
They're singing Revolting Children. Yeah, it's
so
one of their songs.
There was a nice synergy there.
Yeah. And, of course, Matilda has some darker themes in that, so it might be better for slightly older kids. Like we said, our youngest is a spooky girl, so she's fine with things like that. But just know that there are some themes, right? I mean, it's kids being kind of,
revolting,
poorly treated by adults and some different things. So there's some darkness there. But then, as an adult thing, because we're doing the UK, right, which includes Scotland and Northern Ireland, I started watching Derry Girls on Netflix, which is set in Northern Ireland in the, let's say, late 80s or early 90s. So it's during the time of the Troubles and things. 100% not a children's show at all. It's for adults, and it's a comedy. It's like a half hour about these teenagers that are growing up then. And it has some pretty funny stuff, but there's some darker elements of street parades going on for the people that are for the Protestants, and they're Catholic, and the conflicts and stuff. So there's some darker stuff overriding it, but it's also got some really great humor. So you might check out an episode or two just to get a feel for that time period. There's also Belfast. It would be a good movie
that was
to watch.
Movie. I read Last Kingdom, and probably leading into this, I read The Last Kingdom, which is a famous series of books, about 13 of them, that was made into a Netflix TV show. Uhtred, son of Uhtred.
Yeah.
And we started...
Poor
choices. So we watched a little bit of that.
We watched like
five or six episodes. We're getting through the first season. So there's definitely a lot of content there.
It's before the Normans, right?
Before the Normans, before William the Conqueror came over. So this is King Alfred time frame. And kind of that initial unification element, and a lot of Vikings and things like that. So if you like Vikings, you like kind of you don't want any fantasy element with your kings and queens. This is if you're tired of Game of Thrones and waiting for the dragons, and you want something else, maybe The Last Kingdom would be for
very
you
adult as well. Not
very adult,
not for children, and very violent and bloody. So just FYI. But lots of things to watch if you want to also study this country.
Now, media-wise, we watched a few things on the Stonehenge, but we watched. I made the girls watch. There's a series of videos, and I'll put it down in the show notes below. A gentleman who had like a farm in, I think, Pennsylvania or something, wanted to prove that with Stone Age technology that you could move stones and things and big blocks of this size with just rudimentary skills of using leverage and balance and whatnot. And we watched a bunch of videos of him doing exactly that. So he cast concrete forms that were of this size, and he showed how he could inch up the blocks and stand them up, and how he could move them, and all this stuff. And it was super cool. And he had this like VHS documentary that he put out that's now on YouTube, and I'll link the videos below. But it's so large and so easy to move these things using, you know, good physics and mechanics, that he was able to turn an entire barn, just one person, just by, you know, ratcheting it up on this balance point, and with one hand, one push.
So you're saying we could actually shift our pergola or whatever
Yes,
back there that
we
we put 90 degrees the wrong direction.
If I
Technically.
I have concrete bolts and I ain't moving that thing.
You're saying there's a chance.
There's a chance. So we watched a video about how to do that, because a lot of times when you're doing YouTube searches about Stonehenge, you get a little bit of the aliens and stuff coming in, and it was nice to get kind of like, hey, this could actually happen, and this is how they would have done it.
Oh, that's cool.
And talking a little bit about the science principles there would be kind of a cool thing as well. So that was kind of buttressed up against that.
Yep, and then the girls and I took a trip to Cost Plus World Market because they have lots of British foods there, which was really fun. We didn't make anything specific this time because we had quite a busy week, but we had lots of snacks and things, which were super good. We really loved the British bonbons. They're like a chewy candy. They're your favorites.
They're my favorite.
We were able to get some of those at World Market. So yeah, it was a fun study.
Fun week. So
there's tons of media.
Where are we going?
Yes,
Next.
China.
We'll be in
tuned.
China. It's a Chinese New Year. Might come out a little bit after Chinese New Year for you guys.
Right, but maybe you'll catch it the next year around. It'll be fine.
Next year. See you guys next week.